Hey friends, welcome to the Book of Joe, my variety channel. It's time for some Joe Daddy. It's a little bit of an update. So my wife and I had our doctor's appointment this morning. It went as expected, and we are now actually in the hospital. So my wife's blood pressure was elevated significantly actually this morning. And because we're past 37 weeks, we talked to the maternal fetal specialist, and it was clear that it was time for this baby to come. So they sent us over to triage. We spent couple hours in triage, and now we're in the hospital, and I'll show you guys around the hospital room here in a little bit. But we're sitting here, and now we're just in the waiting game as they go through the process of inducing labor, which could take anywhere from 20 to 40 hours, it sounds like, because they've got to get the cervix ready, and then they have, before they can give the medicine that actually creates dilation and contractions. So it's quite a process that we have to wait through, but that's the process. That's where we're sitting at. In the meantime, because baby's on its way, I got to finish my book, and that's what I'm going to work on. But first, let me give you a little tour. So that's my bed for the evening. I will be sleeping there. I brought my pillow. I've got some comfy clothes that I can change into, and so that is my little bit of a sleep space. So my wife doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm going to ignore her. But she's off just to the right of the screen. But again, that's my little bit of a space. This is where baby's gonna go after it's born if it needs a warm up or any type of lighting for jaundice. Otherwise, it spends most of the time on mom's chest. Well, day one is basically in the books. We got to the doctor this morning at around 9:30 was our appointment, so we got there at about 9 a.m. And around, I would say 10, we were in the hospital, and by about 1 o'clock, we were in our labor and delivery room. No, I think it was closer to 2 o'clock in our labor delivery room. 3:30, they administered what's called Citradil, which helps the cervix get ready for labor. So basically, it begins to get the cervix ready to begin to dilate, which then will eventually do the progesterone or something like that, whatever, some sort of medicine that actually then starts the actual labor process. So today is officially, at the time of filming this, it is Friday at 10 o'clock, and looks like most likely Rylee won't be here really till Saturday end of day, maybe early Sunday, or maybe even midday Sunday. It all just depends on this process, and when the Citradil will be over will be 3:30 a.m. Saturday, and then from there may be another round of medicines that we have to do to continue to get the cervix ready, and then only then will they do the medicine that actually forces labor to begin, which that alone can be another 10 to 12 hours. So it's a long process. It's been a long day, and yeah, I'm pretty tired, pretty beat. I look tired. You should see my wife. She looks amazing because she kicks butt. Anyway, she's right there, so I have to say nice things. All right. Well, until I talk to you all again. Hey y'all, well, it's day 2, and I left the hospital just a little bit ago. Had to come back and run some errands, had to take care of my dogs. My mother-in-law has been feeding them at night, but I figured I could come see them in the morning. We're on our second round of Citradil, which is the medicine that helps soften the cervix and get it ready for delivery. So we're still looking at least another 12, 20, 25, maybe 30 hours to go. So right now we're looking that baby would probably be here on Sunday, which means this room will remain unoccupied until at least Sunday. Now baby's gonna sleep with us for a little while. That's why we have this really nice bassinet here. Anyway, sorry if it's a little shaky. It's just because I don't have any of my stuff with me, and I'm kind of in a hurry. But just wanted to say everything's going well. We're in the hospital. It's day 2 of this process, and we'll see where that takes us from here. And we'll be chatting with you guys, I'm sure, very shortly. Okay, so it's day 2. It's about 6:15. We've been now here for 24 plus hours. I would say it's like almost 30 hours now. Wife is officially able to get off the monitors for about an hour. We're gonna go for a walk. She's in the shower, kind of getting cleaned up since we've kind of been stuck in the bed for about 30 hours. So we're gonna go for a walk, and then when we get back, we're actually gonna switch from the Citradil and go into an oral medicine that will help do the same thing. It's gonna help loosen up the cervix. So the nurse just kind of explained this to me in a way that I was able to understand, which is pretty cool. So if your cervix is like this, really hard, like as you're pregnant, to keep baby from coming out, we are trying to get it to be soft like this. Now, your cervix starts long like this, and we're trying to get it down to like this. The idea is, think of a traffic cone, you know, it's big at one end and it gets small at the other, and that is the cervix entrance is the small end. And so what we're trying to do is get it super soft like this so that we can then begin contracting and actually having the baby. So the medicine they're on is an oral medicine that we're going to take every 4 hours. And during that process, it's very possible that JD will actually go naturally into labor, but we'll find out as that process goes. I have to apologize for the bouncy camera. I'm doing this all by hand because I didn't really bring anything to make videos. I guess I really wasn't thinking about that. I joked with JD to ignore the tripod and the camera in the corner. She wasn't having it. So anyway, so our goal right now is to get our cervix soft like this, but also short like this, and even shorter and flatter, so that we can then begin to have contractions and have the baby. So probably looking at tomorrow before the baby gets here, which is probably another 12 to 20 hours of labor, but we'll see. And so right now that's the process, but my wife's taking a shower, gonna check in on that, and then we're gonna go for a little walk before we have to get back in bed and get back on the monitors. Well, it's day 3, and the cervix is ripe for the picking, I guess you could say. Cervix is ready, contractions are happening. They might move to Pitocin, which actually induces labor. JD's having somewhat regular contractions. They're just not very strong contractions, so they just want to make sure that the contractions are big enough to actually manage change in the cervix. She's about 4 centimeters dilated, and we are getting close to possible labor time, which could be another 12 or 15 hours. So we will see, and we'll go from there. So until next time. We're halfway into day 3. It's about 2:10 on Sunday the 18th, and they just started the Pitocin, which is what creates active labor. So we're now kind of on the home stretch, right? Or I mean, the home stretch is in the beginning of the home stretch. JD's is dilated 5 centimeters. The cervix is soft. Everything is good. Just Rylee's sitting a little high. So that's what the contractions do, is push Rylee down into the cervix, and then we can deliver. So things are happening. Well, JD's having more and more contractions. Unfortunately, they're more and more painful for her. It's hard to sit here and watch, but that's what's happening. In fact, she's having one, looks like right now. Anyway, so that's what's going on. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update as we go through this process. I'm not going to be showing you any of the labor. That's a personal thing that my wife and I are going to share, but I will give you a couple updates here and there. But that's where we're at, and there's a chance that Rylee shows up tonight or first thing in the morning. Okay, so it's 7:30, day 3 still. My wife is, I don't know if you ask me, it's active labor. She's having contractions on the regular pretty much every other minute. She'll have a contraction, followed by a lull, then a contraction, and then a lull. We've gotten an epidural in, so she's not in too much pain, and she's relaxing, but this has definitely been a long process since we came in Friday, and today's now Sunday. She's on Pitocin, which helps move along helps induce the labor and move that along. She's on penicillin because she tested positive for group B strep or something we all have, GBS, something we all have. So they have to treat during labor. And then on fluids, of course. But ultimately, we're just kind of waiting until the baby drops. Everything else is ready to go. It's just a matter of the baby dropping down into the cervix, and once that happens, they can break the water, and then I think labor really begins at that point. So we've got some good nurses who are working with us to try to make that happen, and we're just sitting here kind of in a waiting game. So hopefully in the next few hours, we'll be having a baby. Interestingly enough, if the baby comes today, the 18th, she's an Aquarius. If she comes tomorrow, she's a Pisces. So if you were into astrology, it's an interesting thing. I guess that just either way means she's on the cusp, and we'll pretty much have the best of both and the worst of the both. So that's where we sit. So it's 7:30, and we are 3 days into the process. And as you can see, I clearly need to shave and need sleep. But otherwise, one of these days I'll show you my wife, but she prefers to not be on camera, but she's right behind the camera on the other side right now. Anyway, until we talk again, that's the update. Hey everybody, so we're about to cross into day 4. It's about to become midnight, although technically it won't be 96 hours, whatever, 96 hours until, like 10, 11 o'clock on Friday. 6 centimeters dilated, 80% thin, -2, so Rylee is starting to come down. The doctor broke the water during the pelvic exam, so we are progressing. Contractions are continuing. Only thing that happened is my wife had her penicillin because of the Group B strep beta, whatever they call it. That was infiltrated into her hand, so they had to take and do an extravasation where they take little needles like that or like that long but super thin, and they have to poke around the area where it was swollen, and then it was 16 different pokes in the hand, and it was kind of, I mean, it wasn't my hand, so it was kind of fun to watch, but I felt bad for the poor girl. But we're getting there. Otherwise, we're just trugging along now, waiting to get to a point where Rylee is at -1 or 0 in the positioning where the head is further down, and then we can start actually doing active labor where we begin pushing and having baby. So we're getting there. Could be probably a couple more hours, and then at that point baby should be here, and maybe we'll get a chance to take a small nap before we have to become like parents. Anyway, until next time. All right, so it's officially 10:30 on day 4, I believe. Still no baby, as you can see behind me. It's empty. There's no baby over there. So update, the wife is pretty much ready to have the baby. The cervix is 10 centimeters, it's thinned, it's all great. The problem is baby still hasn't really dropped. So this morning when they finally decided, okay, let's do some pushing, it was right at a nurse change, and we started pushing for a little bit and some movement, and then our doctor said, here's some options. We can either continue to push, because the problem is now that we've been on the medicine for so long, the uterus was tired and the contractions weren't happening regularly, which is required when you're trying to push out a baby. We could either A, continue with the irregular contractions and see if baby moves. B, we can take a break, take some time off of all the medicines, and then restart it and then try again. Or C, do a cesarean. So we opted right now, we're going to do option B. We're going to go ahead and we took a break where we've been about an hour and a half without it. We just restarted the Pitocin, which helps get the contractions going again. And I can see on the monitor over there's a couple contractions in the last 5 minutes. So that's good. So we're starting to see that. It's going to start picking up. And then we'll give it a good couple hours of pushing and see if we can't get this baby out. And if it doesn't, then we'll go to plan C, which is a cesarean, which the only downside is just it's the recovery time for my wife. That'll be a lot harder. So we're getting there. We're getting closer. It's been a long process. We're both physically and mentally and emotionally kind of drained. But we're towards the end, hopefully, and we should have a baby here real soon. Hopefully, in the next few hours. Fingers crossed. It's happening today. Today will be Rylee's birthday. It'll happen. Baby Rylee is here. Picture right here, coming now. So baby Rylee, she's here. It was a long weekend. Why I'm laying in this weird bed, I'm just kind of exhausted. My wife is the strongest person I've ever met. She did, we were in the hospital Friday and began the induction. So it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday induction. We really began having contractions Monday, all the way through into Tuesday. And then we had active labor for 3.5 hours, and ended up having to have the baby rotated. It was a crazy, super crazy. But nonetheless, baby Rylee is officially here. She was born on February 19th at 6:17 p.m. She was 5 pounds, 11 ounces, and 19 inches. So I don't know that I'm going to do another update. So if you've been watching this whole thing, hit that subscribe button. Throw up those thumbs. Leave me a comment below. I think I'm going to try to take a nap now. As I said, I wasn't going to show any of the labor because that's a really private thing. And other than the picture of the baby, I'll exploit her cuteness later to get more subs, likes, and views. Don't worry. But anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody who's watched. And I need to go to bed because I am tired. It's now Tuesday at, I don't know, 10:10 in the morning. Probably slept, 10 hours in the last 2 days, probably 20 hours in the last 6. So it's been a long weekend, and I'm definitely ready to call it call. I've got to feed the baby in like an hour anyway, so I need to take a little cat nap. Peace. Oh, and by the way, both Rylee and Mama are doing fantastic.